diffusion? By show of hands.
Teacher, pardon, on your question.
The question is, how does concentration gradient affect the rate of diffusion? Meaning of concentration gradient, if you have two areas, one area has more molecules and another area has got less molecules, how does that affect?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Their hands up, Mr. Bakambisa.
The higher the
Okay.
concentration.
Hands up, divine blessing.
If one of the two regions has a more concentrated substance, particles of that substance will move to the area that is less concentrated.
Yes, thank you. That is very good. They move until that substance will move until they are uniformly distributed. Until there is a uniform distribution. Therefore, increase in the concentration gradient increases the rate of diffusion. The more the difference in the concentration of two areas, the more the difference, the higher the rate of diffusion. Can that girl who has given the reason read for us through this, has given the explanation? Can you read through for us this paragraph?
Concentration gradient. Concentration gradient is the difference in concentration of the diffusing particles between the two regions where diffusion takes place. The higher the concentration gradient between the two regions, the faster the rate of diffusion.
Yes, that is it. Exactly, that's what you have said. Okay, another one who can explain for us how temperature affects. How do you think, how would temperature affect the rate of diffusion? This one you must have studied
Can
it
we
in
have,
Any hand?
Can we have Namata? Yes, the hands up, Namata.
Temperature increases the rate of kinetic energy.
No matter you have said the temperature increases the rate of diffusing particles. Why? Why does it increase? What does temperature do to the particles?
Increases the kinetic energy.
Yes, that is the answer. It increases the kinetic energy of the diffusing particles. You know, diffusion is the movement. And this kinetic energy is important for the movement of those particles. So increase in the temperature increases the rate of the particles. It provides the kinetic energy, which is necessary for the diffusing particles. Okay, how about the size and the density of the molecules? How does density?
Mr. Bakambisa.
Yes, please.
Yes, I think they need to get a difference between explaining and the how. How does temperature affect? Increase in temperature resulting to increase the rate of diffusion. Then what the girl gave earlier was an explanation. How does the temperature, what is it that makes the diffusion to increase when you increase the temperature? So the point to do with the increase in the kinetic energy has got to do with the explanation. Okay. You are giving it rightly, but the girl gave it the other way around.
Okay, thank you very much. You have heard what Mr. Bima has said. When they say state how, then increase in temperature increases the rate of diffusion. When they say explain, then you are explanation. This is because the temperature increases the kinetic energy of the diffusing molecules. So sometimes they can tell you to explain how this temperature affects. You give the state and you also give the reason. You give the explanation as well. You need to know the answering technique of that. So the other question was, the question I posed earlier is, how do you think the density of the molecules affect the rate of diffusion? Any student who would wish to give us what you think?
Pardon?
Teacher me.
How does, yes, please, who is that one?
Namugabo Daphne.
Daphne, please give us the answer.
The smaller the molecules, the faster the rate of the diffusion, while the bigger the molecules, the slower the rate of diffusion.
That's very good, yes. So in other words, when the density of the increase, once there is, the larger the molecules, the larger the size, the lower the rate of diffusion. The smaller the molecules, the faster the rate of the diffusing particles. Because it lowers the rate, because density lowers the rate of the diffusion of these particles. Okay, distance over which diffusion occurs. Distance. If the distance is short and if the distance is wide, where do you experience faster rate of diffusion? That's what we are asking. How does distance affect the rate of diffusion?
The shorter the distance between the two regions of different concentration, the greater the rate of diffusion. Yeah.
Yes, very correct. The shorter the distance over which these particles move, the higher the rate of diffusion. This one not giving us the answer. Can you read through this text? Read through this paragraph.
The shorter the distance between the two regions of different concentration, the greater the rate of diffusion, like the alveoli of lungs or the epithelial linings of the ileum are thin to provide a short distance for diffusion, thus increasing the rate of diffusion.
Yes, we are giving examples where where diffusion occurs and where more concentration. Let's say if you are breathing in air where you have more oxygen and it goes into the lungs, you have more oxygen in the alveoli. The alveoli, in primary, you call them air sacs. You have more oxygen in the air sacs. And so if the distance is very short, from the air sacs, it goes into the bloodstream. It goes into the capillaries. Those are part of the blood vessels. And so once the distance is short, then there will be greater rate of diffusion. But once the distance is very wide, then the rate of diffusion decreases. Can you read through this paragraph, this point you have talked about? The girl who has given us the explanation.
I read it again.
You have already read it, yes. Okay, it's okay. You have already read it. Surface area over which diffusion occurs. The greater the surface area, the higher the rate of diffusion. And this greater surface area is again experienced in the ileum, where we have got the small intestines, where we have the villi, and you have digested food nutrients diffusing into the bloodstream. And you know the villi are very many, they are numerous. In fact, that's one of the adaptations of the ileum to perform its functions. It has got numerous villi to increase the surface area for the diffusion of the digested food nutrients. So once the surface area is large, then the greater the rate of diffusion. So similarly, the one we are talking about, the diffusion of gases in the lungs, the alveoli, those structures of the alveoli, which are the air sacs, they are also very many. Just like we looked at the villi, these alveoli are also very many, they are numerous, increase the surface area. So the larger the surface area over which diffusion is take place, the faster the rate of diffusion. E.g., diffusion surfaces like the ileum have
Many villi.
yes, has numerous villi, finger-like projection, which increase the surface area for the increasing the rate of diffusion. Then the lungs have got the alveoli, which are also numerous. They also increase the rate of diffusion. Similarly, if you look at the plant roots, they are numerous root hairs. Remember, root hairs may not be observed by naked eyes. Those ones you usually see. Remember, those root hairs, they are cells, the root hair cells. Those cells cannot easily be seen. But the ones you usually see are very small lateral roots. They are very, very small lateral roots, those which look like hairs. So they are numerous on the root to increase the surface area. Those are the factors. You need to get these factors. When they tell you to state, you state them. If they tell you to outline, then you simply say concentration gradient, the temperature. Once they say state how, then you state. Once they say explain, then you should also be able to explain those factors that affect the rate of diffusion. I don't know if there are questions here on these factors. Otherwise, we should importance of diffusion in organisms, the significance of diffusion in organisms. This one we talked about it.
There are two, Mr. Bagambisa, there are two hands up.
Okay.
Berita, your hand is up.
Yes, I have two questions. I haven't understood concentration gradient very well. Then for the surface area, does it mean that there is more room for diffusion to take place?
Mr.
have not got
Bagambisa, have you got the question?
The last one I've not got it properly, but the first one, she has not got the concentration gradient. Mr. Bima, would you want to put it in a different way?
The last one is about the surface areas, is wondering whether by talking about the larger the surface area, the faster the rate of diffusion, whether that means having larger surface area implying there is wider space for it to, for the diffusing molecule to go through. And I just want to agree with her. It is true, and it has got the explanation right. Then the first one, the is it the concentration gradient?
Yes, concentration gradient.
I don't know how best to put it in other words. Concentration gradient, the teacher was explaining. If you're talking about a gradient, you're talking about a difference. And if you're talking about a difference, then you should be talking about two or more points or places or locations. So if you, for example, consider 2 points in relation to solution or in relation to gases, for example, then 1 point A has a higher number of molecules that are supposed to diffuse compared to point B that may have less or no of none of the molecules that is supposed to diffuse. Then it means you have a difference between the 2 points in terms of the concentration. So that therefore implies that you will have a higher concentration. And the molecule will move, the molecules will move from that point where they have higher numbers to this point where the molecules are not there or they are concentration. Allow me to pick an example from, for example, from the class. If you would like to smear your body with those Vaselines and so on. So assuming you're the only one that has smeared the body with the Vaseline and you enter the class, eventually the rest of the members in the class are going to detect the smell of the Vaseline on your body. So it means the first persons to detect that smell will be the persons near you. Eventually the persons who are very far. And it therefore means that is somehow bringing the aspect of the distance. So so long as there is a difference in the concentration, there will always be movement. Now, when the molecules keep on moving from where they're highly concentrated to where they are an extended surface, then it means you're going to have more molecules that at one time T will be able to diffuse it through that surface. But if the surface available is small, then it means you'll have fewer molecules to diffuse across at a time. So look at it that the wider the surface provided means very many molecules can diffuse at a go compared to when you have a smaller area, a smaller surface being provided. And that's why he was explaining in lesson 2 those areas where diffusion occurs in our bodies. And the examples that were given included what happens in the digestive system, where you have absorption of nutrients, and what happens in the gaseous respiratory surface, that is in the lungs. So explaining in relation to the lungs, the air sacs provide a surface through which gases can diffuse. It means the fewer the number of those air sacs, that will imply the smaller the surface area. And when the surface area is small, it means you'll have a smaller number of gases to diffuse across, either into the bloodstream or out of the bloodstream into the alveolar space. The other one, maybe Mr. Bagambisa, you want to take it on?
The ilium, because the surface area, the other example is the ilium. Was there any other question? Because that was the surface area.
That was the last one.
That was
Amelia,
the
your
last
hand
one.
is still up.
No.
Okay, okay. They are done, Mr. Bagambisa.
Okay, so we can continue with the importance of diffusion in organisms. This one where we introduced, where we started. We said, what is the use of transport? Where does it occur? What is it transported from where? Let's start with the plants. If we consider plants, where does transport occur? And what is transported? And we talked of water, we talked of mineral salts from the soil through root hairs. So that's one of the importance. Absorption is able to occur because in the soil, we will have high concentration of water molecules. There's a lot of water in the soil compared to the plant itself, compared to the roots. So water will move into the roots by diffusion. That's where we started. One of them is the root hair, the importance of diffusion. Plant root hairs take up some salts by diffusion. Then we have unicellular organisms like amoeba. They take up oxygen and carbon dioxide through the cell membrane. The cell membrane is the organ or is the site for diffusion in unicellular organisms like amoeba, like paramecium. Digested food. Where is diffusion used? You know, in human beings, in animals. Digested food, especially the simple sugars, the monosaccharides, amino acids, they enter the bloodstream from the gut by diffusion, from the ileum by diffusion, meaning that they are more, after digestion, you have a high concentration of these digested food substances in the ileum compared to the bloodstream. So the food nutrients will diffuse from the area where they are highly concentrated to the bloodstream where they are less concentrated. And once they have gone into the blood stream, they will move from one area. They can also move from the bloodstream into the cells. You know, these food nutrients are distributed by the bloodstream into every part, into cells in every part of the body. So they also diffuse from the bloodstream into the cells. We also have got oxygen, which diffuses from the lungs into the bloodstream once again, because this oxygen is carried by the, you remember the red blood cells, hemoglobin, which combine with hemoglobin within the red blood cells and taken to other body cells where it is needed, where this oxygen is needed. And this oxygen, we have billions and billions of cells in the body, and each cell important for all the body reactions. And so there is a high demand for oxygen by the cells in the body. That's why if you have this effect of corona and it affects the uptake of oxygen, within a short time, within 1 week or two, you will be dead, because the cells will die one by one, slowly by slowly, because of lack of oxygen. It is one component which the body cannot afford to miss even within a short time. Very much needed And of course, these cells, as they carry out these body processes, which are these body processes, respiration, growth, excretion, those metabolic processes. Then they also produce carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide should be removed as fast as possible. And so all these gases are removed from the body by diffusion. Oxygen enter by diffusion, carbon dioxide removed from the body within the lungs by diffusion. The other substances that diffuse are the waste products, like the urea, which is diffused out of the animal cells. This is another waste product because it is toxic to the cells. It is poisonous to the cells, so it should be removed as fast as possible. So this significance or the importance of diffusion, or where the diffusion is applied within our bodies, are the processes that we talked about, the areas where this transport is needed. And so in plants, we are talking about water. We are also talking about mineral salts. In the plants, we also have gases. They also diffuse. When it comes to animals, we are talking about diffusion of gases. We are talking about respiratory gases. We are talking about diffusion of digested food nutrients. We are talking about diffusion of waste products. And so if you can remember those areas, then you should be able to get the importance of diffusion in living organisms. So once we complete this, then that will be one process that is involved in transport done, which is diffusion. Unless there is a question, we would quickly introduce osmosis as another process that is involved in transport. Osmosis. One of the guys who can still remember the definition of osmosis? What is osmosis? How is it different from diffusion? Definition of osmosis? Anyone still remembering the meaning of osmosis?
There is Nam Gabo.
Osmosis is the movement of molecules from a region of low concentration to a region of high concentration through the semi-permeable membrane.
Repeat again. It looks like there are some points which are missing, key points. Repeat again the definition.
Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a region of concentration, from a region of low concentration to a region of high concentration through the semi-permeable membrane.
Okay, yes, water molecules. Okay, I had not heard the word water molecules. Okay, the movement of water molecules or any other solvent, but mainly water molecules. What is moving in osmosis, what we consider is water. It is moving from a region of low concentration. Now we need to define this concentration. What is concentrated? When we talk of concentration, this is the who has given us the definition. What are you meaning exactly?
Their meaning, like it's moving from a low part to a high part.
From the that what?
Like if I use example of plants. I think they're trying to make the water is moving from the soil to the shoot of the plant. So it's moving from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration.
So the word salt or solute must be there as a point. Or you can simply say from a dilute solution to a concentrated solution. So 3 points to note there, 2 from dilute to a concentrated solution, and 3 from your membrane. For that definition to qualify, you must have those 3 points given out. And so, who was given a correct definition, can you read through for us so that we can get it clearly? These 2 definitions. These 2 points.
Osmosis. This is a movement of water or solvent molecules from a dilute solution to a concentrated solution across a semi-permeable membrane. It is the movement of water of low solute concentration to a solution of high solute concentration across a semi-permeable membrane.
Yes, so these 2 definitions were able to be given by you people, and those are the definitions of osmosis. And so there is here a demonstration. The first one, the first 2 big cars, you have got one side with the low solute, and the other side, the first beaker, the first one, the very first.
Maybe before that, there's one girl whose hand is persistently up. I don't know whether she has a question. Define.
I don't have a question.
Okay, she has removed her hand.
Okay, okay.
I think she forgot her hand up.
Okay. So this first beaker, you can see it has those solutes. One has got fewer and the other one has got more solutes. And in the middle, there is a semi-permeable membrane in the middle of that beaker. And so you can see now the water is moving from one area, the volume decrease. So what is moving into, and that's why the volume is increasing, and So gravity into the 3 potatoes and then put sugar or salt into the 2. Remember these ones with the salt, one of them is boiled, the other one is not boiled. And in the other ones, they are sugar. So what would you observe? So the setup is as indicated. In this potato A, you have sugar crystals, you have beaker having water. Then you have fresh potato cups. Then B, this is also fresh, but without sugar. Then C has sugar, but it is boiled potato cup. Okay, so what do you observe at the end of the experiment? What do you observe at the end of the experiment? What you would observe is that in A, which is the unboiled potato, you can see water moving into the cavity and filling up. In the unboiled one, but there is no, remember there is no sugar. In this unboiled one, there is no sugar in B. So no water moved inside because there is no sugar. In C, the water entered. Remember, this is boiled. Water entered, but it is on the same level. And so we are going to go through and read through the procedure. Why is it that in B, water entered and they are on the same level? When you boil, you destroy the cell membranes. You remember these are living tissues, they have cells with cell membranes. You destroy the membranes, and so the membranes are no longer semi-permeable, become fully permeable. What happens is that water enters, dissolves sugar, and goes back into the beaker because the cells are fully permeable. Sugar can go from the potato into the beaker, and water can also go from the beaker into the cavity of the potato. In B, why there is no water is because there is no sugar inside the cavity. Remember, so osmosis does not take place. Remember, osmosis, the movement of water molecules from a region of low sugar concentration to a region of high sugar concentration. And so, because there is no sugar in the cavity, water did not move. In A, it moved and filled because of difference in sugar concentration. So this is the experiment to show that osmosis occurs in a living tissue. What you use, of course, for peeling, petri dishes or beakers, sugar or salt, and water. And so the procedure is you have to peel. Make sure you move the cork. You are moving the outer part so that water can easily move. Then you set up the experiments as shown. After setting up the experiment, remember where you are putting sugar, one of the potato is boiled. And these diagrams indicate the setup. In A, A and B are potatoes which are not boiled, which are fresh, and C is boiled. In A, you put sugar inside. In B, don't put sugar. But in C, also put sugar. And so, after the experiment, after the setup, we have said this is the observation. Water moved into A, into the cup of A, into that cavity. In B, no water enters the cavity. And in C, there is a water entered, but also after dissolving the sugar also moved from the cavity into the beaker, because the cell membranes of these potatoes cells were destroyed. They were denatured, and so there is a movement from either side until the solution is uniformly distributed. I think, is there any question?
Our time is out. I don't know. I don't see any hand up.
So we should be able to start from this point next time by reading through the procedure.
Okay.
For now, let's end the lesson. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, teacher, for the lesson.
Bye, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
Hi, teacher.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Eh,
Bye,
Thank you,
Kelly.
teacher.
Hi, Daffy.
Bye.
Bye.
Nana says she misses you.
That's the game nuisance.
Even you, Shona.
You are Richie friend.
Shauna. Even Rachel must be.
What?
Yeah, even you must
Tell
You
her I
are
said
Richie
hi.
friend.
She's hearing you.
and mostly that thing.
Hey.
Also Shona, don't get jelly.
Anna Sally says hi.
Show them their piece of
Anna,
chicken.
that's what Sally says hi.
Oh,
Why are you smiling? Nara.
okay.
Guys, I want to sleep. It's
Oi.
raining.
Shona, are you seeing the piece of chicken?
Hey, give me some.
Look there, this is your piece of chicken. You're
Give me
alone.
now.
There,
Oh my
right,
God.
fresh from KFC.
Hey, give
Yeah.
us.
You there, though.
Everybody knows say mommy, I know they like.
It's here for you. Put me on full screen so they can see very well.
You can still see.
Rachel's falling in love with